Hello, thanks for joining us here at RuneFest today. I'm Mod Pips. I'm joined by Jack Osborne, Fox30.
Oh yeah.
We're going to be talking about our ideas for the future of RuneScape. Now later on today, Mod Mark is going to give a talk about our more specific plans for 2014. So this session is about things a bit further flung. Ideas we've got for the main game for the next few years, but also some things that sit just beyond the main game that we're working on and thinking about right now. So if ever a disclaimer was needed, it is now. You're probably all aware of the disclaimer we put at the end of every month's behind-the-scenes article. This is not a promise, it's a plan. Now, we say that when there's only a few weeks till the content gets released. Now we're talking about many months into the years. So you think of the disclaimer that's needed for this. We want to give you a glimpse of what's in our heads, some of the things that we're thinking of, but this is all very, very subject to change. So first, I just want to give a quick outline. I'm going to use the elder tree as my metaphor. So RuneScape is the trunk of that tree. It's the vital essence that drives everything we do, and other things, they might be branches that grow out of it, but they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the main game. It's the most important thing we work on, though there's some other things we're going to talk about in this session. The main game is going to be the majority of what we're talking about now, and to start that, I shall hand over to Mod Jack.
Thank you. If you saw me earlier, you'll be pleased to know I've managed to put my microphone on the right way around. I'm going to talk about skill reworks. Skill reworks are really important because skills are really the backbone of RuneScape. But we think we can always have more variety, more consistency, and better rewards for having a high level in the skill. Some of them are a bit lacking in that regard. So the first one I'm going to talk about is construction. And I've got a really illustrative piece of concept art for that. So construction's a great skill. But imagine if you could instead, rather than laying out rooms in a grid, fixed size, fixed grid, you could just put any component of your house down anywhere. That includes the walls, so walls per tile, any individual piece of furniture, any individual piece of equipment in your house, like the gilded altar. If you could just lay them out however you wanted, rooms of any size, narrow corridors, build your own complex mansion or maze, have an entire room full of gilded altars if you want some kind of sweatshop, or just have a massive skilling hall that shows off all of your achievements. That's the kind of thing we want to do with construction. But more so than that, at the moment your construction house it's hidden behind a portal in a pocket dimension where no one can see it unless you invite them there, and to be honest, if they're not using their altar, they don't care. So what if your house could be in the world itself? And so our plan is to have about 20 or so plots around the world that you'll be able to build your house on. You'll be able to own maybe 5 or 6 of them and build houses on all of them. Now, you might be thinking 20 is not very many to get across the whole population. But the idea is that with technology a bit like instancing, a bit like the way farming trees work, different players would see their own house on the same plot. So if you own, say, the plot in the middle of Varrock and you build your house there, you see your house, but someone else who's also built their house there sees their house. Now, as I said, there'll be about 20 plots. So this is all a very speculative plan at this point. There'll be about 20 plots. You'll own 5 or 6 of them. On the other plots, you'll see your friends' houses if you've chosen to, or you'll just see the houses of random players. And so as you're going around the world, you'll really just see what players have built in the world. This won't be the whole world, but just specific sections of it. And then finally on construction, we'd love to revise the way it's trained. At the moment, it's a little bit strange. You build a cabinet, you break the cabinet. You build another cabinet, you break the cabinet. It's more of a furniture-making skill than a construction skill. So what we'd love to do is, now once we've got these plots, once we've got players building these houses, is have you buy the plot, and then an NPC will say, well, I'd really love a house that suits my needs. I want it to have an altar to Saradomin and a bedroom and a dining room. Build me that house, and then you sell it back to him, get loads of construction XP. So it really becomes a skill about building houses rather than a skill about building furniture. Next one is summoning. So the first and most important thing in summoning is it didn't quite come out of EOC as we'd have liked it. So we really want to make sure that summoning is the viable and useful combat skill it's supposed to be. It's not just a combat skill, of course, but at the moment, I think generally people aren't using it in that way. But we want to go further than that. We'd love it so that you could level summoning by using summoning, in the same way that you level attack by using attack, or you level mining by using mining. At the moment, you don't level summoning by using it, you level summoning by making pouches. And then if you can be bothered to use the pouches, you use the pouches. So what if you gained summoning XP by fighting alongside your familiar, or by skilling alongside your familiar, and that way it would feel much more like the other skills, it would feel like something you wanted to use, and that you wanted to have running constantly. Even better, we want it so that the familiars themselves level up. So you start, at the moment, you level up to a new level, you get a new familiar, it replaces your previous familiar. What if you could level up the older familiars? That way you've got a lot more choice in which kind of thing you want to use. More than just the Steel Titan are relevant at max level. Of course, we don't want it so that there's no particular reason to use the Steel Titan, so we'd like to differentiate between the different familiars a lot better, different abilities that can be used in different circumstances, so there's a real choice as to which pet you use. Agility. So, maybe you're not expecting about agility. We don't really like run energy as a mechanic. We don't think it's really adding anything to the game. It's something that's annoying when you don't have it, and if you do have it, you don't really notice it. And we'd love to get rid of run energy entirely because it's just adding complication that's not necessary. But we can't do that because people who've leveled their agility deserve something for that. And so until we replace run energy with something better, not just something different, but something better, we don't feel we can make that change. And so that's really the challenge for agility. So when we started looking at what run energy is actually for, obviously it helps you to move around more quickly, but more indirectly, what that does is just directly increase your skilling speed. And so we started looking at different ideas for how agility could more directly, more interestingly, increase your skilling speed rather than through the use of this mechanic that we're not particularly keen on. So one of the ideas we've got for that is that when you're making multiple things, when you're doing an inventory worth of skilling, and you use the little make X interface that does several at once, perhaps your agility speed could simply speed that up, either directly or by giving you a chance at doing more than one at once. And so you clear through inventories faster with a higher agility skill. Or perhaps it would be better if agility was simply more teleports or more useful teleports, faster teleports, that sort of thing. We'll have to work through the thematic basis of that, but that's the kind of way we're thinking around what the agility skill could do. We've also got some nice ideas for things like a kind of cross between a shortcut and a dungeoneering resource dungeon, where there are little things dotted around the world that you can do if you've got a high enough agility skill. But they're not necessarily shortcuts, because obviously teleports make a lot of shortcuts irrelevant. But perhaps there's a small amount of money on the top of a tree, or there's something interesting to get to through a crack in the wall. And one of the best ideas we've got is that you should, with 99 agility, be able to climb on top of the Grand Exchange, so that you can just show everyone how awesome you are. We'd really like to make agility training a little bit more varied. At the moment, it's quite repetitive, and it's not that we want to force that, but that we'd really like to allow for a more varied training regime if you want it. So, mining and smithing. The most frustrating thing as a designer looking at mining and smithing is how little sense the levels make. So the first thing I'd really like to do is just squash the smithing skill right down. Rune belongs in 50 to 59 bracket, the same place it is as of EOC for attack and defense to use it. So what we'd really like to do is squash it down so that the levels required for mining and smithing to use those ores and use those metals match the attack and defense levels. Obviously, we'd then want to add in new tiers of metal above that. The most logical thing to have in the 60 to 69 bracket would be dragon. Now, you can't make dragon equipment itself, because dragon is made by the Dragonkin thousands and thousands of years ago. But you can certainly work with the metal that they used and work with the techniques that they used to create dragon-like equipment. And then at 70, obviously that's barrows. And barrows is fairly unique, from a fairly unique source. But one idea we've got for that is that during the Third Age, the God Wars killed so many people, hundreds of thousands of people, enormous battlefields, loads of dead people. And as society was torn apart, there wasn't anyone to really clear up these battlefields. And so they just lay there, all the bodies, all the magical artifacts, the god energies that were used to kill them, the demons and the undead. And over time, these battlefields were forgotten about, the grass grew over them. Now they've started to uncover them in the Sixth Age, discover these battlefields again. And what they found is that all of the equipment and all of the magical energy and death energy has infused this equipment to make a metal called necronium, which you can now dig up as all ancient rusted swords. And if you do some smithing on them, you end up with something that's as powerful as Barrow's equipment. Another problem that smithing has is that it spews items into the economy. You take a really nice, valuable piece of ore, you make it into a slightly less valuable bar, and then you make it into a completely worthless sword because you've got your XP out of it. No one wants the swords. There are millions of them in the economy. They're outpriced. No one cares. So what we want to do is allow you to level your smithing by combining together items as well. So if I take 2 iron swords, I can combine them together into a better iron sword. 2 plus 0 swords makes a plus 1 sword. That might be plus attack, it might be plus damage. And then 2 plus 1s makes a plus 2, 2 plus 2s makes a plus 3, and so on up to plus 5, which we're calling a masterwork. And the idea would be to balance the skill around the idea that if you've gained a level in smithing, you've produced approximately 1 masterwork item, which would be a thing that would have real value and real use, rather than a huge number of useless items that no one wants. And hopefully this would suck all the existing items out of the economy as well. Of course, the danger of this, particularly when we're talking about something like a dragon tier or a barrows tier of smithing, is that it renders those existing drops less useful. And so we want to make sure those existing drops stay valuable. They'll probably start at the plus 5 level, for example. But then we'd love to give smiths the ability to combine those items with a masterwork item of the same tier in order to make an even stronger item. We call those an artifact. So that will give smiths a real purpose in the economy, particularly as higher tiers of smithing are added, so that they are producing the best items in the game. But they also have to be combined with drops, so the combat people who are producing the drops are also producing something of real value. And then on the subject of mining, obviously the squashing needs to be the same. But drop mining is a slightly strange thing. It was never really what we intended the game to work as. So I'd love to add deposit points to mining areas, so that you're not really having to make that choice. Do I bother to go back to the bank? Of course you don't. You just click on the deposit box, get rid of your R, and carry on mining. We'd have to rebalance it, obviously, to take that into account, and obviously smithing would need to be balanced with that in mind as well. And then also with mining, we'd love to add in a variety of picks. We don't want to change the nature of the skill. We don't want to turn it into some sort of action skill, but it'd be nice if there was a little bit more strategy in choosing where do I go, what do I do, what kind of equipment do I use. And so now we're aware, particularly when it would be quite a controversial thing to squash all the tiers down, because then in a sense, although the ability to make rune isn't particularly useful, it is content that's reserved for 99 players, and so it would be a shame, particularly because we won't have time to add on the new tiers immediately if we do a mining and smithing rework. It's very important to us to make sure that high-level miners and smiths have an advantage for being high level, particularly if you're 99 in that skill. You should get something other than just access to a tier. We haven't worked out exactly what that is, but it is a priority for us. And then finally, if this goes well, if we do this, and if it goes well, we see that as a template for other skills, like crafting, to see what we could do in the same sort of way to fix those, but one thing at a time. So that's that. Oh, and I've got a completely pointless piece of mining. So now I'm going to hand you over to Maud Osborne, who's going to talk to you about the 200th quest.
So I've got the really easy task and fun task of getting you excited about the elves. Yes. Sounds like you're excited already. That's awesome. It's giving me goosebumps. It's great. So I joined Jagex about 7 years ago. And for about every month of those 7 years, I've been tucking a £20 note into Mod Mark's back pocket, trying to get him to do an elf quest that really releases Prithinus for us. I've got to get Prithinus right. I always say Prithinus, but it's Prithinus. And I've realized now that he prefers Lego, so I've tried to put Lego in his back pocket. It's a little bit more unsettling. And for me, it's the first time that we're really getting some kind of momentum. There's really feeling like we're getting somewhere, and getting Prithinus. It's really quite exciting. So, originally, when we were talking about Prithinus, we were thinking about going in there as a kind of a Morning's End Part 3. That was always our notion, back before the 6th Age. Our thinking has slightly changed. So what we'd really like to do is release a 200th quest. So the 200th quest, if you have been counting the numbers, we're still something like 15 away. Still a long way to go. And if we keep on reworking quests as well, that number just gets further and further away. I can see it can be frustrating. So our notion is that we still want to do that. We still want to do that big, celebratory 200th quest. And that would most likely be the elf quest. There is a disclaimer to this, however. If we can do it earlier than the 200th quest, if there is an opening, if there is the ability to do it earlier, we are going to grab hold of that. We really want to do it much earlier than that. So at the moment, that's definitely going for 200th, but if we can, do it earlier. So also the 6th Age has changed us a little bit. We're kind of thinking not beyond quests. Maybe we can do more than just quests about Seren, about elves, about the Prithinus. What about if we started with world events? So we've been thinking about the possibility of a world event built around Seren. So this would be accessible to everyone, no level requirement. What happens if you're all working together, collaboratively, not these confrontational world events with gods like the Battle of Lumbridge, but you're all working together to find the shards of Seren, and we're putting her back together, this colossus just outside Ardoin that we're building up together. and it builds and builds until we finally finish her. And that would be one world event. Maybe then we go on beyond that. Maybe we do another world event. And this world event looks at what happens now that she's built. Because of the way she's broken herself up into shards and kind of gave herself to her people, each of those had her personality in. If you brought all of those together, you have thousands, if not millions, of personalities in one place. That's quite a personality crisis, I think you'd probably find. So what happens to her? Does she go on some kind of rampage? Does she start tearing out the mountains of Arendar? Does she have some kind of product of her relationship with Guthix? There's so many ideas there that are really quite interesting. And that could form the second of the world events. So beyond world events, what else are we thinking about? So for me, the problem with the elves is that they are locked behind a lot of content. If you wanted to get into Prifddinas, it's most likely that you would have to go through Morning's End Part 1, the Temple of Light. If you've ever played the Temple of Light puzzle in Morning's End Part 2, it's so fantastically hard. I didn't do it without a guide. So you'd have to jump through all of these hurdles. I want to give you some stuff, some elf stuff early. And so it's about bringing the elven content in a low-level quest. I think we can do that. I think we can talk about Seren post-world events and start doing some story content. That really excites me. There might be some other quests between that, but what is also important is that we do a Grandmaster quest on the elves. This is fundamental to it. You guys have been expecting Grandmaster quest. You've played through Morning's End Part 1 and 2. You've had to jump through all of these hoops. You deserve to see what happens to who is the Dark Lord. Can I get into Prifddinas? We need to go into Prifddinas. Backstorian. We want to see Backstorian. What has happened to Backstorian? There's so many different strands. The 8 families of the elves. We're going to get to see all of that. So just to give you a little hint of what Seren might look like, I've got a little treat for you. Seren is potentially featuring in a piece of content that we start next year on. So this is what we have initially. So this is the first look at Seren. Nobody's seen this before. I tend to leak things when I shouldn't, and I haven't managed to leak this one. So this is our first draft of Seren. There are some interesting parts to her. Some other concept art you see today, you might start drawing parallels. So if you're a lore hound, you might see something in this concept art. But so this is what we're at the moment looking at for Seren. This is what's been split into thousands of crystal shards around the world. So I've talked about quests. What about Prifddinas itself? Getting in there. So is our feeling that we would potentially like to break it up, Prifddinas? Instead of having kind of an elf quest, a single update, how about we slowly move into Prifddinas? What if it was like Varrock, where you just started with East Varrock, brought in West Varrock, South Varrock, that sort of thing, and we start opening up? Because there are 8 families of Prifddinas, and there are 8 segments, like a Trivial Pursuit wedge, I guess. And so we could start working our way through, and we could start delivering new updates. So imagine like one week you get a crystal crafting week, in which we give you an update to crafting, a high-level crystal crafting update. Maybe crystal construction. We move further in. There's crystal combat in there. We're fighting some of the elf families. You're starting to move further and further in, up to the point where you see everything. And these are obviously very sketchy. So this is Prifddinas. What we have here is the notion of the Tower of Voices. If you love your story, the Tower of Voices is where the elves go to commune to Seren. It's the largest chunk of her that isn't separated out into the world. So for a start, we're imagining it is actually a body part of Seren. We've gone for the hearts here. We could go for other body parts within reason. Try not to be too rude. But the notion that, what I like about this is that her veins fill the whole of the city. This is her crystal city. Her heartbeat pumps through all of it. And so it has grown out of her. This is all part of her. And really reinforces the fact that she has given the elves the crystal shards to rebuild and do what they want with. And you can see here some of the kind of, the idea of mixing crystal with natural materials like trees, grass, etc., to give a unique city. And we'll slowly build that up over time. And our intention it's a big, lofty aim, and we hope we can still achieve it, is that Prifddinas becomes the Varrock for higher levels. It's where you go if you want to do high-level training. It becomes your hub, where you feel like you're defaulting to Varrock to do a lot of your things. Maybe Prifddinas is where you go instead. So there we go. That's it. So that's about the 200th quest of the elves. Thank you very much. I'll now pass over to Mod Fox 30, I think. Yes, about RuneScape on the move.
The power of the presentation in my hand. Fantastic. Hi guys, hi, I hope you're having a really awesome RuneFest. I'm ModFox30. This is my first RuneFest, which when you say it like that, kind of sounds like a support group. But you may call me Pete. My name is Pete. And as a little bit of an introduction, I am actually a designer on the mobile and tablet team within RuneScape. And if this presentation will move forward, there we are. So I'm here to give you a little bit of an update and talk to you about tablet and mobile and what's going on in there. I'm sure you guys have got some questions and you've got some expectations about what you'd like to see happen with RuneScape on mobile. And I'm really eager to talk to you guys later in the RuneFest. Feel free to come up to me and we can just talk mobile and tablets as much as you want. So I've been knocking around the industry a little bit for a while, and I've seen how mobile gaming has kind of come in, and it's changed really the scope of video games. We no longer really want to be restricted to our desktops and on our PCs. You know, we want to be able to access our games wherever we are. You know, on the train, you know, in a swimming pool, maybe if you're skydiving or something. And we on RuneScape are well aware of that as well. So probably the most prominent question is, what are we doing with RuneScape on tablets? And probably even more prominent than that is, when I'm actually going to be playing with RuneScape on my iPads and on my mobile phone. So the honest answer is, we are actively looking at this, but we can't give you guys a firm date as to when this is going to happen. And that's not to say that we've been twiddling our thumbs or anything. In fact, we've actually started building and researching how this game is going to work on touchscreen devices. So what you can see here is actually builds for an iPad what we have actually done for RuneScape. And we've actually given these over to player research companies and actually got feedback from gamers alike. And what we're doing here is that we're trying to investigate all the different systems that are in RuneScape, such as how do you manipulate the camera, how do you control characters, and we're trying to work out the best possible way that we can get this on a touch interface so it feels natural. And there's a lot more in there as well. For example, there's loads and loads of little bits of UI, lots of menu screens, and we want to ensure that when we actually deliver RuneScape on an iPad, that it is going to feel like it would always belong there, and it's going to be the best possible MMO that we can deliver. But we don't want to keep you guys waiting, because, like I say, we're not too sure exactly how far this is off, even though we are actively looking at it. So, in fact, it's my very, very proud to actually announce officially, and I'm wondering how long I can actually hold this a little bit, a new project that we're actually in development right now, well, not right now, because we actually are here, but resuming development on Monday morning, is the RuneScape community app. Now, this is brilliant, guys. This is fantastic. This is a suite of features that will allow you to interact with RuneScape in ways you cannot possibly do right now. We're talking about giving you access to in-game features such as chat, such as Grand Exchange, such as forum access, such as newsfeed posts, such as clan management, and giving you the access to those features on your mobile phone so you can use them wherever you like. And if we do this right, the intention is this will be available to every single different type of handset out there. So it won't matter if you're on your iPhone, it won't matter if you're on an Android device. As long as you've got an internet connection, you'll have access to this fantastic suite of features. And it's something that's going to grow. So we've decided to start with chat, just to give us a little bit of a lead-in. However, obviously you guys are probably aware that we polled the community a month or so back to kind of gauge your guys' reaction and what you'd like to see in there. And Grand Exchange was a big headliner for that. And that's now on our roadmap. So it's very much a case of you guys telling us what you'd like to see in there, and we're going to build this thing for your convenience. So I hope you're excited about that. I think, personally, there hasn't been a better time to get excited about the future of RuneScape on mobile and tablet devices. So please, it's been a pleasure introducing this to you. But if you have any questions whatsoever, any ideas about what you'd like to see on mobile and tablet, come and grab me. Let's talk. It'd be fantastic. Okay? And with that, I'm going to pass you back to Mod Pips.
Thank you. I hope you liked what you saw. We can't wait to get this released. We're going to do our absolute best to get the first version out before Christmas. There's no guarantees, but the team are working really, really hard. That's not the limit of our mobile ambitions for RuneScape. We think that we can do a lot in the mobile field, and we can support and improve the experience of the main game with these sorts of devices. We're not going to start until we're happy, and most importantly, you are happy with the community app, but we are starting even now to lay the foundations in terms of design, in terms of prototyping, of where we want to go next. And we've kind of got 3 paths that we're exploring. The first one is to think of your mobile device, think of the screen like a window into the current game, where we take a small slice of RuneScape and allow you to play it on your phone. Now, for me, the most obvious thing is something like player-owned ports. It's already interface-driven. It's something you'd pop into once, twice, 3 times a day. That could really suit how you use your mobile. It's on you all the time. You can dip in and out when you need to. The second area is to create a different type of gameplay, so not literally something from the game, something a bit different that suits the mobile device, but connect it back to RuneScape and to your character. So the sort of things we're toying with is if you could have a game where you can make stuff, you can do kind of crafting, you can cut stuff up, you can do make items. We don't really know yet, but the idea there would be you can have some cool, satisfying gameplay, but it would connect back. You could get woodcutting, fletching, crafting, construction XP back on your main character. There's so many different possibilities there. The third area we're thinking about is not having necessarily a data connection, but more a story connection. So having a game that is wholly standalone, but examines the ideas, the characters, the locations, the themes that are in RuneScape. And there's so many different ways we could take this. You could do a story-orientated adventure game, really focusing on a few of the characters we love, or you could zoom it right out, a strategy management game. Think of what we could do with managing miscellanea if you built that into a deep mobile strategy game. That could be really awesome. So yeah, we've got a lot of ideas there. We're starting to tinker around. We've still got quite a bit of work to do with the community app, but I think next year we're going to be really going for it, and we're going to be talking more and more with you guys about that. But our ambitions for our technology, for doing things beyond RuneScape, isn't just on mobile. I feel we've got real unfinished business with our PC technology. Now, it's no revelation to anyone that we didn't get where we wanted to with the HTML5 client we made for RuneScape 3. We worked really hard, we saw some good progress, but really we hit the limits of what the browser can do. And even in the months beyond RuneScape 3, we were kind of hoping the browser tech would improve, and it has a little bit, but really not enough. So we're going to do that work. We've got a crack team of awesome programmers back at the office who are essentially finding a way to take the improved architecture that we built for HTML5 and the benefits that that has, especially the visual benefits, and make a native version, something that can run directly on your machine, not through a browser, not through a sandbox Java environment, that can work like any other Apple game. So the benefits there is that you get the visual improvements and some of the other things that HTML5 would have given us, like it opens the lid for much better graphics in the future, but with much better performance. So not just better than HTML5 currently, and also significantly better than how Java runs at the moment. Both of, even the Java browser and downloadable clients still don't run at their full potential. So, I think this is going to massively improve the game for everyone. The team have made some good progress. It is still early days, but we're hoping later next year we're going to fully supersede the Java clients. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to that. So, final set of slides. He says. Okay, so this is the proper blue sky section. We talked about mobile, we talked about other tech, and we're working on that and we're starting to tinker around. But we're also thinking even further into the future. We ask ourselves what ideas we've got, what things we want to explore as designers, as game makers, that might not necessarily fit within RuneScape we've got. These we ask ourselves what the potential is for games that sit beside RuneScape, things that complement RuneScape. They might share the DNA and the spirit of RuneScape, but they are wholly separate games. Now, this is a long way off, and these are only things in our heads, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of the sort of things we're looking to explore. So we kind of ask ourselves prompting questions. So I'm going to use that as an example to show you where we're at. So the first one is us thinking, what if there was a game a bit like RuneScape, but it was all about survival? Everything in the world could be hostile to you, from the world around you, the environment, everything that lives there, all the monsters, all of the players as well, where death could be swift, death was tough, and death was permanent, where everything you made, everything you found, you gathered, every single object could make the difference between whether you survive to the next day. There's some really interesting ideas there. This is more an emotion, really, than a game design, but we think there's something really special, and we're going to start looking into it. The next question, for a whole other kind of set of things we're looking at, is also us saying, what if there was a game a bit like RuneScape, but it started with a completely clean slate, where it was the community that built this new world, where the game was about discovery, finding new places, learning new things, pushing forward a frontier, building a world anew. Everything could be built by players. Everything could be built by your hands. The players controlled the whole world, from the commerce to the quests to the rule of law itself. That really interests us. There's something really, really cool there. It's not something we can do within a very established game, but it's something that, you know, could sit beside it as a partner on the virtual shelf. These things, again, they're just in our heads, but there's some things that are really interesting us, and we're going to be looking at them through next year. And obviously, we'll be talking to you guys about how they're going as well. So I'm just going to start to wrap up. He says. Let's try again. Okay. So we've got some really cool stuff coming. We're really excited about it. We hope you guys are interested in it as well. I feel that we're really privileged. We've got a great company. We've got a really great team. We've got the resources and we've got the skills to be able to not just make a massive game and update it frequently, but to try new things as well, to support the game, add things around it, really try some cool and innovative stuff. And you know, it's a really lucky position that we find ourselves in, and you know, we don't take it for granted. We're also incredibly fortunate to have such a fantastic community, people that love our game, are not scared to tell us what we're doing wrong, and maybe you're interested in some of this other stuff we're thinking about as well. We've talked a bit about our vision for the future of the game, for some other stuff we're doing around it, but this is just one take, and it's just where we are right now. It's our starting point. We really, really want to know what everyone else thinks, because ultimately we're building it for you, and we might have some great ideas, but that won't really mean anything unless it's going to really be something you really enjoy. So whether it's finding us later today, hitting the forums, let us know. It really, really matters to us. It's phenomenally useful, and really we want to create great things inside the game, great new things for you. Thanks very much for joining us today. Hope to see you around the rest of the site and RuneFest, and thanks very much indeed to the other speakers as well. Thanks for coming along.
And I keep my headset on for the next. Oh.
Brilliant. Right. Before we talk about anything, we've heard that we have got viewers literally everywhere, not just England and America and Canada, but places like Indonesia and Brazil and
apparently there's 7,500 people viewing.
Yeah,
so
incredible,
awesome.
Incredible. So to all of you watching, thank you very much. We hope you're having a good time. We hope you're enjoying watching. You know you can get involved on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So brilliant. Yeah.
Hashtag RuneFest 3.
Exactly that. Now, and hashtag smell my gnome.
That's a thing.
No, sniff my gnome, isn't
Sniff
it?
my gnome?
Sniff my gnome.
That's
Do
very
that.
interesting.
Yeah, sniff my gnome.
Didn't hear about that one.
Right, what did you think of what we just watched?
I thought that was really amazing. I just like to see the inside of basically what's to come. I mean, they have a bunch of skill reworks planned, agility, which is a big thing that everyone wants to see, better rewards for that, construction, how you train it, summoning, it needs a step up from the EOC. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on, and it's just really cool to see this as a player, as an employee, just overall, it's just amazing to see these things come into the game, and I'm excited to see it actually be put into the game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone else who's excited about all of those things, I imagine, is Mark.
Yes!
Welcome back, Mark.
Hello.
No longer looking cool. I mean, you still look cool.
How dare you?
You look really
How
nice.
dare
you
you?
look really cool.
With that haircut.
I like the
I
blazer,
know,
though.
but not as cool as you did before, I think. It's just...
Well, I've derobed. Surprisingly enough, there are some people here that aren't quite sure what I look like, and so I thought it was important that they could see my name on the back of my T-shirts.
Oh, that's a good idea. Do you want to spin round, show people?
I
Go on,
could,
do it.
I could.
I think it's important you do.
watch out,
I
we've
can't
got
really do that, no, because I am
My turn.
literally tied to the sofa.
Okay, well, it sort of works. What did you think of the big question session?
That was really good, actually. We went through, we knew some of the main questions that the players were going to ask us. We had the right people on the stage to answer those questions. And it's a really good opportunity to be really honest and open with the players, which is something we really want to do more of. You know, we coined this year the year of the player. And I think there's so much more that we can do. And I think, you know, trying to get involved with the community, the different channels, and, you know, I think those kind of sessions is just an opportunity for us to just, you know, pour information from the heart. Yeah. And I think that really means a lot to people when you can see that and you're not trying to hide behind, you know, spin or anything like that.
Sure, sure. Well, that makes sense. That's very nice.
Absolutely.
What were the questions that stood out for you? Possibly things that you would look at integrating in the game or changing?
That's a good question.
Thanks very much. I should have been down there, really, shouldn't I? Should have been down there.
So I think a lot of the questions were to do with a lot of the burning issues that players have to do with, you know, bots and, you know, the things to do with things like the Squill of Fortune. And, you know, they're always kind of difficult things to talk about on the forums. But quite a lot of the feedback that we've been getting from those sessions, they allow us to kind of make changes in the future. Bonds is a new thing that we've introduced very recently, and we've kind of put this charity side of things to it as well. But we're trying to find different ways to kind of strengthen the benefit of bonds, and it's certainly really useful to combat the threat of things like gold farmers. And we're trying to find new ways to make them even more appealing, and, you know, find different ways to sort of tackle the problem of people doing things that we don't really want them to do.
Why do you think those issues are so important to players?
So we've always taken a really kind of, what's the word? I think utopian way of looking at things. Everything needs to be fair. Everything needs to be the same. People need to be going through the same amount of effort. And so when people see other people cheating in the game, they want to see, you know, what we're going to do about it. And there's always these kind of, you know, any company, any kind of rules that exist in the game, people kind of flirt on the edge of those rules. And so it's really quite difficult for a player to understand why we can't do more things. And it's difficult for us as well, particularly sometimes when our technology isn't quite there, so we can identify these things. But we made some huge leaps and bounds in the last 12 months, particularly on combating bots. And right now, if you go to the main game, you'll see absolutely no problem with bots at all, which is something we're incredibly proud of. Players don't quite notice that. And it's interesting because you get a lot of players will say, well, your numbers are going down, there's less people playing. Actually, that's not the case. There's more people playing. It's just the numbers are smaller because we've dealt with all the bots. So it's natural that people seem to get a bit stressed about that kind of stuff, but, you know, we're confident that we're doing the right kind of things, and it's really important that the players understand that.
Good. What is it you personally can get, and you know, the Jagex team can get from conversations like that, where you're talking to players that you can't get from when you're just sat in the office trying to work things out for yourselves?
I think it's that kind of emotional response, really. When you're talking to someone who's invested hundreds or thousands of hours into their account, you kind of get a really kind of emotional response, and you get to really fundamentally understand the problems that they go through. And, you know, we try to listen to as many players as possible, but, you know, it's kind of like the difference between talking to someone face to face or on the phone or on a text message. It's, you know, it's different. You kind of lose that emotional kind of grasp of things. And so
Absolutely.
seeing people face to face is a completely different experience. And it's incredible, it's inspirational as well, you know, and that's one of the glorious things about an event like RuneFest. And we go back to the office and we feel even more motivated to make awesome content because we can picture the faces of the people at the other end of the
Smiling
computer.
little faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. Well, you should get little pictures of everybody and you put little pictures by the, like around the screen, and then you can see them as you work for them.
It's interesting. So on my Friends Chat channel, for example, I've managed to meet a lot of the ranks that look after the chat that I have. Just a quick shout out to all the wooters that are out there. There's the camera. Quick shout out to all the wooters, everyone on the chat. They were looking forward to the live stream. I said I'd give them a mention, so
There you go.
big shout out to you there.
Okay. Equally big shout out to the 75,000 other people watching.
75,000.
If it's 75,000, that would be
Dang!
great. 7,500
That's-
is what's
I
going
thought you
on.
said 75,000.
75,000 would be remarkable.
Only 7,500, right? So there's at least another 60,000 of you.
Yeah,
if we want to
could.
hit that 75,000 target, which is pretty much what you just did.
I'm sure that's what you said.
You know, so yeah, like go down your road.
I guess the
Tell
shout,
people to log on
Yeah.
to Twitter, to Twitch.
still a shout out to all of you, but just
Yeah.
slightly less enthusiastic now.
Not
There
as
aren't
much.
quite so many of you, I guess. Sorry about that. Get your parents involved; they'll love it. So we just spoke about what it means to you and how it can differ your opinions by
Yep.
speaking to people. But what do you hope they go away with? What's their experience from having sessions like Big Questions?
So we have a really, like I say, we have a really good, a real feel-good factor after we do things like that.
Yeah.
And it gives the players the tools to be able to go and answer those questions on our behalf. Because we can't be everywhere at all times. You know, we've got community leaders here, people who other people listen to, clan leaders, people who run YouTube channels, all sorts of different things. And it gives them the ability to kind of reflect the things that we say. And it allows them to kind of spread the word, which is great. And a lot of people, they want to know the answers to the question because they have hundreds or thousands of players that are asking them the same question. So we're just giving them the tools to be better community leaders. So that's the kind of the way I see it anyway.
It's so nicely dishing out tools. Dishing out tools, improving people's lives.
Well, it's crazy because we took so many tools away in the game, you know, give them a tool belt so they don't have to run around with hammers anymore. It's kind of like an opposite, really.
Right,
But anyway,
this is changing the subject slightly.
yeah,
Have you been drinking out of your horn?
I have. I have.
Can I-
I started with lemonade. It looks a bit
May I touch
manky
your
in
horn?
there. Yes.
Your horn is pretty manky.
Yeah, it looks manky in there, but it's not manky. It's just what happens when you put acidic materials.
It smells like a
in
closed down brewery.
Does it?
Give that a whiff.
That-
Get your nose in his horn.
That's the smell that
Telling you
horns
to
should
sniff
go
my
for.
horn now.
You offered for me to sniff your horn.
Damn right.
My horn appears to be being passed around.
It's quite weighty.
Thank you.
How much can you get in that?
Just under a pint, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah. Just have to drink that
A
with
kind
time.
of bottle, like a bottle of beer fits in there quite nicely.
As we spoke earlier, other alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages are available.
Indeed.
You don't have to buy beer.
No.
We're not an advert for beer.
No.
Although
We had that.
Although we did. Yeah. Did you see that earlier?
No.
We had this little. There's some beer in it.
Whalefish took a shot out of it.
But-
Yeah. Loved it.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it.
Nice.
Been running around in his underpants ever since.
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
I see.
It wasn't a costume, it was actually just him.
Yeah.
Right.
Drunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seen any costumes that you've really liked?
Yeah, loads of costumes. There was someone dressed as Zilliana that was good. There's a lass running around as Ariane. She looks very accurate costume. There's a kingly impling,
I saw that one.
which is great. That's a player who I've known for a very long time, so that's good. Some really cool skill capes. The guy who dressed up as Saradomin, particularly cool. He actually made me a sailing skill cape,
Really?
which I decided to wear for an hour just to troll some people around the building, because I'm announcing the second skill later on today. So
Are you?
It's not sailing.
What is it?
I can't tell you.
Tell us.
No, because
us.
then I'll be ruining.
I
the
personally
surprise.
can't wait to hear that.
How about
I
this?
don't know it. So.
Why don't you tell us exclusively? The people downstairs still won't know. They'll
Right.
still get a surprise.
Yeah.
And I'll give you this copy of RuneScape 3, the soundtrack.
And this Sharpie that you can put on
20
keyring.
tracks.
Interestingly, I have a few of those on my desk already.
What can we do to sweeten the offer?
Yeah.
I'm
The
sworn
keyring.
The key ring.
secrecy.
And then you can put this on.
No, no, I'm sworn to secrecy.
We'll get you a horn that'll fill a pint.
Oh.
Now you got me thinking, but no.
Okay. Lee, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Before you ask questions, I saw a guy earlier in just an American flag. That's all he had.
I like
okay.
him. I like them.
It's okay?
Bet you do.
I like them.
Bet you do.
Sounds like a good friend.
Stripes?
Personally, I have a question for the last session that was just done with all of the new content that's going to be revealed, like
The future content.
yeah, the
Yes,
future 200th
yeah.
quest and all this other stuff. What is your favorite out of all of the content coming out?
Well, we're working on a whole load of different kind of new ideas right now.
I saw that. I can't wait.
I mean, a kind of pet love of mine for a long time is this kind of crazy idea that I've had called Darkscape, which is very different to kind of everything else that we've been talking about. It's kind of a permadeath, vicious, dark version of RuneScape where everyone's kind of using their skills and crafting and to live in this kind of really hostile world.
A real medieval environment. Kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
but you know, I kind of a slightly different take on things, really sort of orientated around PvP, that kind of kill or be killed, survival of the fittest vibe.
Okay.
And we've been tinkering around with a lot of ideas around that. I'd love to be able to give him the opportunity to kind of work on something like that, but we've got some kind of interim solutions to a similar kind of PvP orientated thing, which I'm going to talk about a bit later.
Cool, okay.
200th quest, elves. Like, so much love in
Been
the
waiting for
building
so
for
long
elves.
for
And
that.
yeah, everyone's been waiting for such a long time. The problem is, you promise Crystal City, and all your graphics artists are like, well, how am I going to do that? You know, that's like a year's worth of all the effort of all the artists all at the same time. And, you know, especially as our aspirations get bigger and better every year.
Right.
But it's something we're determined to do. And we're really committed to making sure that it's that 200th quest, if not beforehand, if we can find the resources to do it. But you know, it's difficult to put your whole graphics team on one project because
Right.
then no one else is doing anything else, right?
Nothing gets fixed there.
Yeah.
Now, not to pass over today before it's already finished, but I know you're excited about RuneScape 2014.
Yes. Yeah. That's my
Tell us
big
something
thing.
about
So
it.
that's my 5 o'clock session, and so I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the content that we've got coming out in the next kind of 18 months. So lots and lots of highlights. Going to be talking about the new skill. Going to be talking about World Event 2. Going to be talking about World Event 3. Going to be talking about.
What are you going to be saying about them?
Huh?
What are you going to be saying about them?
You see, I can't tell you.
Can you say one thing? Can you confirm
Yeah.
if the second skill will be in 2014? Can you say that?
I can say that, yes.
Okay.
Boom, exclusive.
There you go.
We
Yeah.
achieved something.
We worked really hard. We really tried to get it out this year because that was kind of what I'd promised.
Right.
But if we want to do a really good job, if we want to make sure that it really resonates with the community, then you need to put that extra work in.
Absolutely.
And believe you me, when I talk about the kind of things that we're planning, you'll understand why it takes such a long time.
I honestly think that you should take your time. I wouldn't want
Yeah.
anything rushed or put out just because you promised something. I think everyone, on behalf of all of the players, that they'd want to wait for the skill to be awesome instead of just getting a content that was
That's
kind of
right.
half. You know,
Nobody
done.
wants content for the sake of content.
Right.
No.
Right.
Exactly.
We've tried quite hard and not really got anywhere. Has anybody over the last few months been able to get any information out of you? Like, has your mum been like, go on, just...
Well, you know,
What's gonna happen?
quite a few of the developers on the floor know a little bit about the things that we're planning. That's
Is
for
that
sure.
just because you told them
And
because they're on the
actually,
inside?
there
Or
was some-
did they work
No,
on it?
there's some players that are walking around that know about one of the things that I'm going to talk
How do they
about.
know?
Well, because we invited them into the office a few months ago, and it was one of the ideas that they really wanted. And we kind of brainstormed.
What idea
and
we discussed
Talk
in
about some stuff. So what we're talking about is the Skillers boss. So this is a boss monster specifically written for pure skillers. So not combat, nothing like that. A boss monster just for people who've got who want to do boss fights but aren't kind of combatants.
And I came up with that kind of concept, and like back in the day, I put a forum post about this kind of skilling boss, and I mentioned it to you also at the dinner. And I'm really glad to see that something's being done with it because that's really exciting because I love that.
That really is a kind of twinkle in my eye right now, but I'm really excited about it, and that's why I want to talk to the players about it.
Very exciting.
And it's not really fair that only like a handful of players know about it. I'd like the world to know.
Okay, so what else will we be talking about? You don't have to tell us. You don't want to, but...
What else? So I'm going to be talking about a massive quest. A quest that literally everyone has been waiting for, and it's not even the elves. And that is going to be a huge, huge reveal later on. I got goosebumps just thinking about it.
We got a lot of huge reveals coming, huh? We got all of 18 months of content. That's kind of
Well, and that's not all the content that we're going to be working on at all.
absolutely.
That's just a few of the things
The
that
big
I'd really
things.
like to talk about.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Earlier,
Yeah.
we saw you having a little sing-song.
Right?
Yeah. Now, we're going to watch a live version of that very song. Live. are now joined by Stephen Lord and James Hannigan. Just saw you strumming away. Can we have a little demo?
Yeah, I was playing on my guitar earlier, but we've been doing all sorts of little things all day. We did a whole church set, first of all, which was music from One Piercing Note, so we played Cythereid Requiem. Cool. We went into Valerio's song where we had Mod Moltaire singing the whole of that, so that was all mandolin stuff, so that was all the... I can see her dancing barefoot, there are flowers in her hair. I remember like I saw it yesterday, etc. Nice. I don't sing that, so that's all you're going to get from me, I think. But yeah, we've been doing all these sorts of bits all day.
Just quickly, for the benefit of everybody at home, can you introduce yourselves and tell us what it is you do?
I'm Mod Lord. I'm head of audio at JagX, so I look after all the audio output, whether it's all the content we put out, all the marketing videos, look after the music, sound effects, voiceovers, all those sorts of things.
And I'm James Hannigan, and I've been working on music for RuneScape 3, reimagining the music, reinterpreting some of the old material, writing new material for Steve.
You've also won a BAFTA, haven't you?
Indeed I have, yeah.
Pretty cool. Do you want to brag about it for a minute?
It's not worth bragging about, really. It's been
very humble.
world, very long time ago, actually.
Still pretty cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not bad, yeah.
You've worked on some pretty good titles, haven't you, really?
Yeah, Harry Potter series, Lord of the Rings, Command and Conquer, recently Dead Space 3.
Wow, nice. Very cool.
Yeah. So with the Harry Potter stuff, did you come up with the
No, that's John Williams.
Yeah, I worked with James on the Harry Potter series a few years ago, but yeah, John Williams is his theme, but we kind of used it all over the game. So, yeah.
Nice. Cool. So what have you been doing for today?
Today, I've been doing all sorts of things. As you mentioned to Mod Mark, we've got the boat here from the Player Owned Ports video, so we went and did that this morning, and then because there was lots of crowds in the main hall, we decided to just move into the main hall and take that over and then move down to the square. So we've just been annoying people by playing it all over the place. So yeah, we've been doing the port set. I said we've been doing a church set with all the One Piercing Note stuff, sung Wending Through the Willows, which is one of the songs off Song from the Depths Quest. And we've done a Cook's Assistant. If you remember the musical, we did an April Fool's musical, so we've got pantomime cow and lots of girls in the choir singing all the cake songs and things like that. So we're all in the quayside bar, just having a bit of fun, really, and yeah, having a good laugh.
So is this your sort of baby between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was first when I first looked at upgrading the soundtrack, we wanted to produce a new theme, a new RuneScape theme based on the old one, sympathetic to the old tune, but turn it into something new. And out of that, I approached James, and we went off to Bratislava for 3 days, and James has produced a whole hour's worth of music that taps into a lot of the old classic themes, things like Newbie Melody and Medieval, and we've reimagined the RuneScape things in various ways. And and this has kind of been, producing the CD for everyone today has been a bit of a labour of love for me, and it's just great to see it kind of materialise that way.
It's awesome with the intro because, I remember logging in 2004, 2005, and then, you hear that intro song, you're like, I'm playing RuneScape, I'm about to log in, and then you hear it now, and you're like, wow, this is exactly what I remembered, but it's so much better.
Yeah, and when we went to Bratislava, it's a fantastic auditorium there, and it was just me in that space, and there's 70-odd musicians who've all dedicated their lives to their craft, playing the RuneScape theme, and it's amazing. It was a pretty, it's quite an emotional moment, really.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. James, what was your role when you were asked to get involved? What did you think, or did you have any ideas straight away, or did you pay a lot of attention to the game? Or?
Yeah, we did it in 2 stages, really. I mean, we started with the orchestral music, which is on that CD. But then we sort of moved on to smaller scale, more intimate tracks with a string quintet and a few instrumentalists. So it was, there's quite a diverse range of tracks there. But the first stage was to record some pretty sort of epic versions of the theme But then Steve sort of wanted to explore something a little bit more intimate for the game. We felt that you know, that sound was a little bit too, you know, that sort of large 72 player orchestra was just a little bit too full on for the game. So yeah, I mean, the second stage, at least as far as my involvement goes, was recording a smaller ensemble, and of course a lot of work's being done at Jagex as well. Steve and his team have been recording plenty of tracks as well, I believe.
Excellent. Now, everyone, remember, you can watch Stephen's session at 7 p.m, that's GMT, when we will be playing content we couldn't show you live. Now, we're going to show you a little video about what is coming up over the next hour. This is it. Now, the next Insider session is coming up very, very, very shortly. Get that, Lee? Very shortly.
Very shortly.
Very shortly.
Very.
So we will watch a little video about that to give us a taste as to what's to come. This is it. It is Ask Us Almost Anything.
Almost.
Yeah.
The Q&A session is a panel of people from various disciplines at Jagex, all perfectly designed to answer your questions, and it's that chance for players to get straight to the point. If there's a burning, yearning question, to just ask us.
I work in the Jagex customer support department. I have a particular interest in PMods. I'm a PMod myself. I've played RuneScape for many years, but I also work on other account issues and help players get back into the game and give them the support they need. I think I'll probably get asked quite a bit about player moderators because it's something I'm heavily involved in, but I think it's a great opportunity for people to just ask any questions they have about RuneScape whilst they have such a good panel of people here.
There'll be lore questions, so what will happen in the future, what does this mean, what's this puzzle, what is that Easter egg back there, what's it linked to? There'll be questions about mechanics, how do you use this attack in this specific situation, and there'll be questions about life at Jagex, how to get a job in the industry. It could be anything.
It's important to us because although we're making the game, it's the day-to-day experience that we're interested in, and perhaps there's little things that we don't notice, and that feedback's really useful to us. And while we may be quite aware of some of the larger scale things, it's those little tweaks that can make all the difference to a player's experience.
It's a good opportunity for me because I get to find out what players are asking about, which as a content developer is very, very useful because it shows you what players are interested in and what fascinates them, which means that I can look to try and incorporate that in future content. So I can see, ooh, they're really interested in this, therefore maybe we should focus on that.
But the really exciting thing about this session is that we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know what questions we're going to be asked, and that's going to keep us on our toes, but we really enjoy the challenge of that. And I think for players, it's an opportunity to see if they can put us on the spot a bit, and maybe they'll just rise to that challenge.
I sense that the crucial word in this is almost.
Very
That
crucial.
you can't just throw anything like that. Lee, what questions do you hope to hear? What will you be asking?
I hope to hear someone ask about the EOC and just reworking some of the abilities, some of the more stuff for the future ideas, the summoning content, the agility content, just try to get a little bit more out of them, out of all of that. So I hope they can reveal some things, but if not, I wouldn't be that too disappointed.
All right, let's go and find out.